Hey everyone, so before we jump into today's video, I have a little announcement to make. I have officially opened an Etsy shop. Now, it may not seem like a big deal, but selling my work has been something I have always wanted to do, but I've always been way too scared to do. I mean, will you guys like it? Will people even buy things? Am I even good enough to do this? Well, I guess we'll have to see. But I do have a few things up in my shop right now. But because I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom, I currently do not have the time to have everything printed and mailed to you. So right now I am selling PDF files that you guys can print and download yourself. And the one thing that's really exciting that is in my shop right now is this watercolor workshop workbooklet. So here's a little peek at what's actually inside the booklet. I go through all the supplies that I absolutely love using. I go through terms and techniques you need to know as a beginner and things to practice. I go through color mixing and color theory. And I also go through step-by-step instructions on how to do winter foliage, florals, and eventually ending with how to make this beautiful wreath. So if you are interested in picking up your own copy, head on over now to the link below and go check out my Etsy shop. And finally, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being so kind and supportive. None of this would be possible without you. I am so grateful for every single one of you. So let's jump into the video now. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to paint some beautiful watercolor reindeer. So let's do it. Okay, so to start, I'm just going to go through my materials. I have my Arches watercolor paper with me today. I have my Winsor Newton Cotman watercolors in my palette. I have my Princeton snap brushes. I have a size 16 and a size 6 with me, water, paper towel. I also have a pencil, just a plain old pencil, nothing special, and my kneaded eraser. And I also have my iPad. So today we're going to be painting a reindeer outline and kind of like a scenery inside. So to do this, what you're going to want to do, if you don't want to freehand painting a reindeer, which can be really hard, you're going to go onto Pinterest and you are going to look up reindeer drawing outline. And there are all of these outlines of these drawings of reindeer. I have a really hard time drawing reindeer. I gave it a try. It wasn't great, but there's all of these available to look at, and you can also trace them. Obviously, if you're tracing someone else's work, you want to give them credit, or if you're, trying to sell your artwork, you're going to want to try and do it yourself and not copy. But this, for your own personal use, if you want to make a Christmas card for your friend or parent or whatever, there's no harm, I find, in tracing. And you're going to be doing most of the legwork anyway with painting. So pick an outline that you like, and then you're going to either on your iPad, if you have one, I find it's really great because you can use this as a light table, or if you want to print it out on a piece of paper, you're going to trace it. So if you are printing it out, print it out on a piece of paper, put your watercolor paper over top of it, and go up against a window, and you have like nature's light pad. If not, use your iPad and turn off all your lights like this, and you should see the outline. Okay, make sure the brightness is all the way up, so you can just swipe down and make sure the brightness is all the way up just so you can see it. And there you go. So you're going to trace it. Okay, so I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to work lightly, because sometimes if you touch it in a certain way, it moves underneath. So you just want a rough outline. Okay, so we have that one. There's my outline. You could also do like a full body one, which would be fun. So I actually might do that as well. Here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to trace this quickly. There we go. There's your outline. I will also link below where I got these pictures on Pinterest, if you want to do the same ones. And I'm going to start with the head first. So I'm going to turn my lights back on so you can see. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to create kind of like a winter scene in the background. So I'm just going to just erase some of these lines, any harsher lines. You don't have to erase them fully. And I'm going to take my big brush because we're going to be covering the whole area of the reindeer with paint. So I'm going to use my big brush so it stays wet longer and I can do it a little bit faster. So just try your best. And I'm doing a light wash of indigo for this. And it's going to be darker at the top and lighter towards the bottom because the bottom is going to be snow. It's going to be kind of like the other painting I did, the forest painting, but in a reindeer. And I love this indigo color for that. So you might want to like pick where your snow is going to start and make a line there just so you have a reference. It's already starting to dry up here, so I'm just gonna go back over it with some water. Because we want the whole thing to stay wet, so we can go back in with that darker color. Because this part will be the sky, and we want really nice blends in the sky. And you get nice soft blends by doing wet on wet, so it needs to be wet. Okay, so I'm actually gonna use an even lighter wash and go down here. And this is where the snow is gonna be. Okay, and I'm just gonna go over the whole thing again and make sure that it is all wet. Okay, because we're gonna start dropping in some darker color. I want to make sure it's all evenly wet so it blends nicely. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing, is just working fast enough that it will all stay the same amount of wetness, but also making sure that you're, you know, in the lines and all that stuff. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I'm going to take my smaller brush just so I don't overwhelm it with color. I'm going to go into my indigo and I'm just going to start darkening it up, especially really dark towards the top of the sky. And then it will get lighter as it meets that kind of horizon line that we put earlier, even though you can't really see it right now. You will see it later. It's really dark at the top. And honestly, if you didn't want to create a scene in the reindeer, you could always just like drop watercolor in, right? And it will just look beautiful. Like do the wet on wet technique and have a bunch of different colors and funky patterns. That would be pretty cool too. Again, darker towards the top. Just gonna blend it out as it gets closer to the bottom. I'm just gonna take some of that paint off and just bring that color down a bit so it gets a bit lighter. And I'm just gonna create that horizon line where that snow starts. It started to dry down here, so I just wanna wet it up a bit, taking off that color. Okay. Still gonna darken up some areas here. Like this. Taking off some of that color. Oops. Blending it down. Okay. Again, I still want it really dark up here. Just getting those really dark. You can even add a bit of black up here if you like, to make it really nice and dark. Okay. Okay, and then here where this horizon line is, I'm going to create some trees. So I'm going to take some dark indigo, and if you watch my forest tutorial, you'll see how I did this. So I'm just creating some lines, and then I'm just creating some branches coming off. And this is going to be like faded trees, not faded, like blurred trees. So that's why we're doing it on the wet. Wet on wet. It will create that blurred background effect, but you can still kind of tell that they're trees, okay? Like so, okay? Just like that. Okay, I'm just going to fix this a bit like that. And now we're gonna let this first layer dry. Okay, so now that it's dry, we are gonna do some more detail. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of my indigo and I'm gonna start creating trees. And now these are gonna be sharper because they're in the foreground. So I just did a line there, and then I'm gonna have some of the pine pointing up. And just taking the tip of my brush with really light pressure, just gonna create some of the pine needles going down. Try not to make it too symmetrical, just be really rough with it. Makes it look a bit more realistic, okay? Have the bottom of one here. That. We can add some snow on it later. And maybe we'll add some little trees. So the ones that are all blurry are in the background, like really far away, and then there's ones that are closer, so they're smaller, but they're sharper. That. Make that a bit darker. And this one will be more in the foreground here, so it's further down. Add a little bit more paint to make it darker. Like that. Like so. Okay, there we go. Now, you could always add more here. I think I did a snowman before you can, oh yeah, hold on. So I'm going to wash off my brush completely, have it wet, not too wet, and I'm just going to touch the bottom here so it bleeds out. Try and do the same on this side, but I think, oh no, it's still a little wet. Just to create hills a bit. Wash off your brush and just blend it out a bit. Might even add another one there. Like that. Okay. And then once that is completely dry, we can start adding some snow. Okay, so now that our trees in the foreground are dry, we're going to be using some white ink. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White Ink. It's my favorite. But if you don't have this, you can use white gouache, white watercolor, just use more of it so it's opaque. Or you can even use a white gel pen. Those work too. But this is definitely my favorite white ink. I'm just going to take some white on my brush and I'm just going to add some snow to some of these trees. Just in those places that the snow would collect. So on top of some of the branches. You can even have some on the ground. Just very rough. Don't worry about it being too perfect or anything. Okay. Make some of that snow down there being a little whiter, fluffier. Okay. And then I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to create some snowflakes by tapping my brush, especially in the sky. I feel like there should be a better way to do this, but you should see the back of my wall behind my desk. It is covered in splatter marks from me doing this over the years. Make sure you get some below. Then you can always go back in and add some where you need it. And there you go. So easy, really no drawing that is necessary to do this. But yeah, so there's that one. And then for this one, you can do the same kind of thing, have like a longer like tree line over here, or you can even just fill it with watercolor and different colors and just have them splattered everywhere. Let's give it a try, shall we? So I'm going to take my big brush and I am going to cover the whole reindeer with water. If you want to see where you're putting the water, you can always add a bit of color to start. Think about your color palette that you want to use for this. Whether you want to have like blues and purples or reds and greens, like Christmas colors, whatever. I think I'm going to do some bright blues, like magical colors, purples maybe. I did not erase that extra line right there. Try to erase all your lines that you need to beforehand. And I'm using my big brush because I need to cover a lot of ground in a small amount of time. Make sure it's all evenly wet. So keep trying to move that water around to keep the whole deer wet. Especially because it takes a little longer to get in all these areas over here. So like I said, you can definitely do another scenery in here too. I think that would be really pretty because it's a lot bigger too. There's more area to do that. but really it's up to you. Okay, so now that it's all wet, we are going to just start dropping in some color. Okay. Now this is completely relaxing and so much fun to do, so I am going to slow it down and have you enjoy the beauty of wet on wet. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like dry and the beauty of that wet on wet blends. And with good paper, you'll get those seamless blends of from one color to the next, and that's about it. So there are your two different types of reindeer outline paintings that are super easy and beautiful and also therapeutic to do.
Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram for more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.